So for everybody, pay attention here. If you're in the US, I would argue this is the single most important topic beyond like, hey, we're going to get you more listings and we're going to get you like all the things we know. Like we're only 2 sessions in. But this morning, as I mentioned, I'm on the phone with, what's up, Coach Alyssia? I was just mentioning, I'm on the phone, Alyssia, this morning with George, who's one of my clients who they'll sell, call it 1,800 homes this year in his team in the greater Phoenix, Scottsdale metro. And literally at 6 a.m. this morning, so it's 4 a.m. his time, he texts and says, there are 90 active listings in my MLS with 0 commission paid to the buyer's agent. And he said, I think my sales team is finally going to start to listen. And I said, well, make sure you jump on at 12:15 today Central, because the world famous Coach Alyssia Essig, who I'll do a little bio, she won't, 26 years in real estate, was the president of her board, is arguably one of the most litigious, intelligent real estate agent, team leader, broker, managers you'll ever meet. And she knows that her and I sat 4 or 5 years ago before anybody was talking about the DOJ, anybody was talking about commission lawsuits. And I'm like, look, you are the by far and away best in the industry at teaching buyer agency. She's not going to go through that stuff today because we've done that a million times. Matter of fact, I think about all my coaching clients know one of the most popular trainings for about 18 months was when she actually said, here are the 3 component parts, and she broke down each one of them. And we can certainly make that available for all of you that if you need it. But today I said, I need you to go high level with people. I need you to not scare them, but to have them be aware that this is very real. And if they don't know how to know and show and demonstrate their value, they're going to be in trouble. So I want to just say, I know you're incredibly busy. Thank you so much for being a part of this. So you take it away, my dear. The floor is yours. Enjoy, my friends. Pay real close attention. Listen up. Take lots of notes. Coach Alyssia Essig, take it away.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Tom. I'm always really, honored when I get a call or an email that says, hey, can you present? Is my video on? Can you see me? I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go through a few slides that I put together. For those of you who don't know me or don't already follow me, you guys can scan this QR code and you'll get connected to me. You get my Blink card right there. But this is going to be what's working with home buyers in 2024. So we're going to talk about 3 main things, and we're going to dive right into the meat of the hurricane, which is the Department of Justice. Tom and I were this week.
Hey, Alyssia, really fast. Could you make your screen full screen?
Yeah.
Cool.
Is that better?
Yes, kind of, but I still see all your bar and
I know,
all
I don't think I can do anything
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I apologize. Keep going.
Sorry. Anyway, so we're going to talk about the DOJ, and Tom and I this week, we're both sending each other different Instagram reels and TikToks about, what people are saying about with the DOJ. And the DOJ has basically released their opinion. It's not law yet. And yeah, Tom likes to call me a lawyer, which I find really funny, as he just said, litigious. I like to follow the rules. Why? Because it's our license. And if we lose our license, then we lose our ability to make an income. I don't know about you, but I really love this industry, and I want everybody to be safe and hold on to their license. So let's get into what did the DOJ do. So the DOJ basically said they want to decouple the commissions. That is what they want. And so let's talk about the explanation. And what you guys are going to see is, I know this is a lot of text for a slide, and I apologize for that. The rest of them are not like this, but you as an agent, it is your fiduciary responsibility to be able to explain this properly. So here is the explanation. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to talk about the traditional commission structure. Traditionally, when a home was sold, the seller paid a commission to their listing agent, which oftentimes was shared with the buyer's agent. That means indirectly, the commission costs are included in the sale of the price of the home, and the buyer doesn't directly pay the agent. Now, the decoupling of the commission means that separating the buyer's agent commission from the seller's costs, instead of the seller paying the buyer's agent, the buyer would negotiate and pay their agent's commission directly. This change aims to increase transparency and competition in the real estate market. Now, there's one more explanation. Why would you need to pay for my service? So as your real estate agent, I provide specialized services to help you find the right home, negotiate the best price, and navigate the complexities of the home buying process. Paying for my service directly aligns my compensation with the quality and the value of services provided to you. It ensures that I am working in your best interest as the payment comes directly from you and is negotiated based on the services you require. Now, I know that a lot of you are either in states where this is new / never been required / you are very used to assuming that you are going to be paid by whatever the listing broker has offered out on the MLS. And I am not trying to scare you, but what we are all trying to do is prepare you that the very possible likelihood of these commissions being decoupled is very high. And a life of you as a real estate professional saying to a buyer, you're going to have to pay me for my service, it is knocking on our door. And so why do I think, and I'll be honest with you, I kind of don't mind this because the explanation has always been complicated. It's always been, and there's so many rules, right? Like you're not supposed to say that the seller pays the buyer, when in actuality, that is kind of what it does, right? But it's the listing broker that pays us. And there's a lot of nuances, but the general public doesn't understand it. And the general public has made it very, very clear that they want a different process. Now, are there going to be unintended consequences? Absolutely. And we're going to talk about a few of them because we've seen that happen. Again, the coaching client that said there were 90 listings with no comp offered. That is one of the consequences. But here are some of the benefits, right? Number one, it's transparency. Number two, negotiability. And number three, the alignment of interests. Transparency, because that's what the buyers and the sellers, the consumer wants, higher transparency. They've made that clear, and the DOJ is saying, we hear you. The next one is negotiability. If you have paid attention in CE class, you know about antitrust, right? What is antitrust? Antitrust is price fixing. That is what they don't want. That's why we're not allowed to say that, the commission is a standard, or you're not allowed in public situations to discuss that there is a minimum fee or a standard fee across the industry board. But yet, if you want to get real honest, you know that there is, and there has been, and the industry does need to change. And what the DOJ is trying to do is create more flexibility for the consumers. Now, you may not like that because you've said, well, I have gotten into this business and I automatically thought I was going to make a certain amount of percentage from the average price percent. And when you're doing your income analysis and you say, oh, well, I need to sell 10 homes in order to make the money I want to make based on those percentages. You're going to have to now decide what your value is and then demonstrate it. We're going to talk about that. So these are the benefits. I kind of like it. Now, here's the thing. There's a lot of noise. Like I said, Tom and I were sending each other TikToks and Reels this week. One of them actually, I just saw this morning and I was like, wow. So an unintended consequence. It was a lender, a mortgage lender, who had sent an email requesting the executed sales contract from the listing agent. The listing agent said, no, the buyer is unrepresented, and that's not my job. And I was like, wow, okay. However, in my litigious brain, there is a fiduciary responsibility that listing agent has to get the buyer to the closing table on behalf of their seller. So is that agent right or wrong? I'm going to just say, send the darn contract. Why dig in your heels? But you may be saying, where does it end? Right? And that's okay too. What we need to understand is there is a lot of noise. I chose this photo because this is how many of us are going to feel. Tom touched on the fact that this is an election year. The DOJ stuff that we're dealing with in our industry is a tiny, tiny little component of the noise that is going to be the definition of 2024. So what does this mean for you, the real estate agent? What it means is that you are going to have to make every effort to stay focused. And it means that you need to have a business plan. All of our coaching clients at the Tom Ferry ecosystem have a comprehensive business plan. And we are working together as a coach. I'm coaching. We are working these business plans directly. It's so easy to get caught up in the noise. It's so easy to say, woe is me. Christy Jenks talked about the buyer thing and said, there's complainers, right? You can complain. You can be frustrated. You can be someone like me at 26 years in this business and be like, wow, I have to unlearn a certain way of doing business and I have to relearn and change because that is what the consumers are demanding. So having a business plan. What does a business plan look like? It's setting clear objectives and goals. It's strategic planning. It's resource management. It's financials. If you are not one of our coaching clients right now, please go and get the free business plan. Download it. And it's just February. It's not too late. You can absolutely make yourself a plan. Having a plan will help weed out the noise. I promise you. Another way to stay focused is put your head down and make sure that you are filling your brain with as much knowledge as humanly possible. Know your properties, know your neighborhoods, know your laws, know the 27 negotiable terms that Tom has been talking about at Roadmap. Christy Jenks talked about at the last mega webinar. Those 27 negotiable terms, when you know them like that, you then become impressive. The contract terms, home buyer and seller behavior and psychology. This is your job. And when you have this knowledge, your conversations, your skills will absolutely increase. Your scripts, your dialogues. Now, if any of you have watched me talk about how to do the buyer consultation or any of my other trainings, there's always a doing the math component. Now, I've gotten some pushback from some agents that say, that's not my job, that's the lender's job. But when you are trying to demonstrate your value and you're able to do some quick calculations and rattle off a mortgage payment or a net sheet or whatever, because you know how to do that, that is part of you demonstrating and showing your value. If you don't know how to do the math, then go take a CE class, ask your broker, ask your lender, have somebody sit with you and run through it with you. Doing the math is impressive. So many clients will say to me, wow, that's impressive. You just rattled that off? Yes, I did. It's part of how I demonstrate my value, and that's how you should too. Another piece to staying focused is having a solid team in your corner. And I don't mean a team of real estate agents. I mean a team of lenders, title, contractors, painters, handymen, landscapers, stagers, haulers, and you know who else? Your coach. You need a coach in your corner. That coach will help you stay focused when you are hearing all of the noise and you've lost some business and your sellers are upset because maybe it hasn't sold in 2 nanoseconds. Your coach can help you stay focused. So, moving on. Knowledge builds confidence, and confidence is powerful. Confidence is confidence in your scripts, confidence in what you say. It is absolutely important for you to go through those 3 things that will help block out all the noise, because your skills will explode when you teach yourself these things. They will absolutely explode. So speaking of knowledge, I'm going to drop a few little nuggets for you. You are probably a member of NAR, And whether you are happy about it or not, let's leave that noise away. But what NAR does do is they do an NAR profile of home buyers and sellers every single year. And these are very interesting statistics. These are some of the big numbers that I pulled out. I have it all highlighted up, but let's look at these. First off, out of all of the purchases last year, 32% were first-time home buyers. 14% of all purchases were multi-generational homes. That's a big number to be buying multi-generational homes. 20% of all purchases, cash, no loan. Another really big number, 20% of homes purchased were purchased with cash. Now, the number one type of home they wanted, 79% of all home buyers desired a detached single family home. The next one is 89% of home buyers used a real estate agent or broker. Now, if the DOJ decouples the real estate commissions and buyers have to pay, might that number go down? Maybe a little. But with it being as high as it is, it's not going to affect your business like you think it might. And the last one is only 6% purchased directly through a previous owner or a for sale by owner. Only 6%. That's it. Not nearly 90% of home buyers used a real estate agent and only 6% bought from a for sale by owner. Now, these stats are something, and I encourage you to go to the NAR website, pull out this NAR profile of home buyers and sellers. It's a quick read. You can highlight the crap out of it. There are some really, really good information pieces. And the number one piece of information that I pulled out is this. What was the top item that buyers wanted? They wanted the agent to help them find the right home. They also found that their agent helped them understand the buying process, pointed out unnoticed features and faults in the property, and provided a better list of service providers, negotiated better sales contract terms. We just covered what I'm telling you to do to block out the noise, having a team. They want you to have a team. The consumer wants you to help them find the home. The consumer wants you to hold their hand. They are scared. That it is, think about all of the noise that we're hearing, and we're in the business. For the consumers, there's the noise and they don't have the knowledge. They are looking to you to make them feel safe and feel good about the decision to buy a home. That's what they're wanting from you. And it's important that you slow down and take your time with them. So the next piece to staying focused is always being solution focused. So Molly McGinty, this is her Instagram profile. She's one of my coaching clients. And she says, every single morning I wake up, I tell myself, this is what she says, I tell myself that the market does not determine my success. My mindset determines my success. She reminds herself, she writes in her journal, she says, it is what I think and what I believe is what will come true. So if I believe that the market is it's doomsday, then that's what it's going to be. Molly says, no, I'm not going to fall into that narrative. I'm going to stay solution focused. I'm going to be creative, and I'm not going to let the noise get to me. She will sell 40 homes by herself this year, easily. All right, let's talk about winning business, right? So winning business is Tom talked about the buyer consultation, which we're going to talk about in a second, and I might ruffle a few feathers here, but let's talk about getting up, dressing up, and showing up. There is nothing, and I'm just going to be blunt here. If you know me, you know that that's not a problem here.
Coach, I got to jump in really fast.
Yeah.
This morning, I know you were on at the very beginning. I said, everybody, 2024 is the year of focus. And what I told everybody is the less time you spend in the chat the better. It's about focusing and listening. And I'm watching people like debating issues back and forth inside the chat. And all I would say to you guys is like, first, God bless you. I send you nothing but goodwill and blessings. But right now is the time to focus, right? Act as if you were sitting live inside a seminar. You wouldn't be having conversations back and forth. You'd be sitting and taking notes and you'd be writing down questions, right? Jake's like, let's go, Tom, right? Steve reset, sorry, Dad. So exactly. So just like, you can ping her on Instagram. You can debate points. You can ask questions. She's an open book. She's been a broker. She's been the president of her association. But for all of you that are just kind of, yapping inside there, you're missing the point. Just listen. Because in a minute, I got another presenter, and then I've got Jimmy Mackin, who's going to give you 10 campaigns for you to get more listings. You just don't want to get lost in anything. So I apologize. I'm just reminding everybody, stop writing, listen. Alyssia, keep going.
Hey, no worries. And I wasn't really paying attention to the chat because I was just moving forward. So again, not paying attention to the noise. So listen, get up, dress up, and show up, and do it consistently every single day. And this may sound basic and fundamentals, but get up, dress up, and show up. There's nothing that gets my goat more that when I'm at an open house and an agent and their clients walk in and I can't tell who the agent is. Make sure that, and if you know me, you know this is one of my beefs, like look like a professional, look like an agent, look like you mean business, right? And here's what I'm going to say to you about this. And, you guys can hate on me all you want if you don't like it, but here's what I'm going to say. You will never, ever, ever, ever offend someone by being overdressed, but you will undoubtedly, potentially offend someone by being underdressed. And so take how you present yourself seriously. The consumers, I have gotten dragged in on TikToks and you name it on how much hate there is for realtors. And they constantly complain that that realtors don't do anything. They don't show up. They just collect their commission checks. So it is time for us to start actually demonstrating and being the valuable thing that we are in the real estate process, 150%. So the next piece is honor the fact that you have to earn the business. Tom talked about earlier, like saying, I'd love to onboard you as a client. I'd love to apply for the job of being your realtor. When you are having to explain that they need to pay you, you are applying for a job. Somebody once said, every time I wake up as a real estate agent, I wake up unemployed because you have to go out and find the business. You have to go out and apply for the job of being your realtor. That's what you have to do. Now, meet Edward Rivera. He is an agent within our ecosystem that actually tagged me in a reel yesterday. And you can go find his reel from yesterday. He actually did the 3-part buyer consultation that we're going to talk about in a second, in which he put a reel together where he talked about looking at 38 homes in one day and saving his carbon footprint. You know how he did that? Well, he did that because he used the 3-part buyer consultation. If you have seen me before, you know it's a very simple process. The first section is when you are reviewing buyer agency, compensation, local information, and you're having the opportunity to build rapport. The second item in the consultation, and it is a consultation, not a presentation, because you are the star. You are the one that knows everything. You are the expert. So don't rely on your tool. Rely on who you are, the knowledge and everything that you're gaining when you're staying focused. Your housing needs and wants and the financing. This is also where you're going to do a little math and you're going to help that buyer make the right decisions. And the third piece together, and this is the part that Edward talked about, was that he was reviewing all of the available homes that matched the client's needs on the MLS before he even got in the car with them. He reviewed everything. Now, if any of you were at Summit last year, you saw that I actually did a demonstration right there live with a client, and we reviewed homes right there on the internet, right there on the MLS. This part, that third part, is so incredibly powerful. And the concept is you're slowing down to speed back up, because when you do all 3 components of this, you will save yourself a ton of time in the car. You promise you will, because you have covered and weeded out and weeded in so many things about the home that they're looking for. And you will save yourself a ton of time. Now, we talked about, and I did read it, yes, we talked about the explanation and telling them why they should be paying your commission. And that is because you are performing a service. Remember, you're not a nonprofit realtor. You do this because it's your job and your livelihood. And so if you have been riding the wave of assuming you get paid, please assume you're not getting paid anymore. You have to get it from the buyer, and it's coming down the pipe. So talking about the home buying experience, elevate your value. The home buyer experience is do the buyer consultation. Every single buyer have a consultation. If you want to save yourself time, effort, and energy, you don't show any houses until they've done the buyer consultation. The next piece is be clear and frequent communication. The consumer's number one complaint is a lack of communication. Little personal anecdotal story. I've had clients tell me directly that my ability to be able to have a challenging conversation or deliver not great news is so uncanny that they're like, it's okay, we're okay. I had a lawyer tell me that, wow, your ability to tell me bad news is pretty amazing, and I don't hate you for it. So build your skill at having challenging conversations. Hold their hands, just like the NAR profile of home buyers and sellers said. They want you to hold their hands, and then make it exciting and special. This is a stressful time. You should be making it fun and exciting and clear communication, clear and frequent communication. Now, to go the extra mile, you can include, and Christy from last time included some examples, which were great, but a home buyer welcome kit. You do a buyer consultation, you can end it with a home buyer welcome kit, a little bag with a measuring tape and a little mini flashlight, hand sanitizer, some water or water bottle, notepad and pen, maybe a local guidebook. Drive them around. Be of service. If you're not allowed to drive them around, hire a driver. You can then be the tour guide. And yeah, you might say, well, that's not my job. I'm not a tour guide. And I'm going to argue and say, you kind of are. Your job is to help them identify the right home and neighborhood. And that's not just the home. It's the neighborhood. It's the lifestyle. It's their commute. It's where their friends live. It's what they like to do when they're not working. That is your job. And if that requires you to drive them around so that you can say, hey, here's the dog park for the dog that you want to buy, because you uncovered that at the buyer consultation. You could bring customized property comparison sheets and know your property history and storytelling. Now, depending on where you are in the country, you may have more or less history to learn, but take the time and learn it. And if it's not history, then learn about gardening or the landscapes or the hardscapes. Be the knowledge broker. That will help take you the extra mile. Now, that is it for the actual presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and take a look at some of the chat. And everybody's just...
Hey, Alyssia, I killed the chat because we had someone inside there that was probably just a spammer going a little bit nuts. Gotcha. So first of all, I took like 4 pages of notes, and I get to spend a lot of time with you. There's going to be a lot of debate around this discussion. And I think what's important for everybody to understand is our role is like deliver the facts as we know it, and then take someone like Alyssia, who again is, president of her association, been a broker manager for a massive company, has a lot of people relying on her for insight. So there's always going to be the, is this the right approach? Is that the wrong approach? My advice would be, and I say this to you, Alyssia, like I want your input. For a lot of people, it is putting your head in the sand is a bad strategy. There's been a lot of people that you and I have been in this discussion for 5 years. We started talking about this in like 2018. And so many of our clients have just moved to the simplicity of buyer agency. Entire states in the US have just said, can't write an offer without a buyer broker agreement. I don't wish that upon anybody, but I think there is a very real threat, and putting your head in the sand and trying to argue and debate, and is it right or is it wrong, or is it constitutional or not? That's like getting involved in politics. And my response to people is, if you're going to like talk about that kind of stuff verbally, annoy your family with it, not customers, right? Like, we need to figure out how we're just going to move the ball forward. So is there any other places you would say, hey, I recommend you go here, here, here to learn more, to study more, to get ahead of the curve?
So you have to start with what your state regulations are. And if you don't know what your state regulations are, then either go to your broker and or your local association to make sure that you understand, again, the litigious part in me, the part that's protecting everybody that's watching's license, is make sure that you know what your state requirements are. That's number one. Number two, that's got to be start. Number two, you've got to, if your state has a buyer broker agreement, which I don't know if a state doesn't have one. I know that there are states that have them that don't require them. I'd get ahead of the curve and make sure that you know that agreement inside out, sideways, upside down, and forwards and backwards. Like, you have to know it, and you have to practice the scripts in order to be able to articulate your value, explain, just like I did in those first couple of slides. And yeah, I read the slides, but that's because I wanted you guys to see exactly, I wanted you to see the script and hear me read it. You are going to have to look at those slides and read and memorize and practice until it gets ingrained in you, and then you don't have to read it anymore. And so being able to say, yeah, you know what, there is a possibility that I may not be paid by the seller. And in which case, if I'm not being paid, my minimum fee is X. And if I'm not paid that, you are going to have to pay that. Now, here's what's great. The industry held on to a certain percentage, even though antitrust laws and what have you were there, we held on to it. But with the decoupling, or all of the conversation of the DOJ, there is more flexibility, which is what I talked about in the first section. There is more flexibility. So you know what? You have a $5 million buyer that wants to negotiate your commission. Fine, negotiate your commission. If you have a $200,000 buyer and you need to add it into the sales price, and essentially the process is the same as it was, but then the buyer understands what they've been paid for. In all honesty, I'm excited for it. And the reason why is because buyers thought for the longest time that we were free, because that was the message that the industry put out. We are not free. We get paid for a service. We provide value. And so therefore, if now we are forced to explain that they do have to pay us and we do have a value, they're not going to go run around saying that agents are worthless anymore, because they did have to pay us. It's also going to make sure, and this is what I was talking about with staying focused and winning business, creating your value proposition is, and Christy talked about this on the first session as well. What's not Googleable, right? What's not Googleable? What's not Googleable? Your team. What's not Googleable? The therapy that as agents, I'm with, like you guys, I am out there selling houses, showing buyers. I have a client that literally said on a Saturday night at 7:00, this is why we're paying you, because I need you to talk me off the ledge. That's our job. Bingo. And for those of us, or those who think that it's not, then you may need to rethink this role, because providing that value, holding their hands, providing the therapy when they're freaking out because this is the most money they've ever spent, and they are worried because the home inspector saw a tiny little bit of moisture in the corner of the basement. That is your job, to help talk them off the ledge and understand that everything is fixable and everything is negotiable. So a lot of what we do is not there. It's not talked about because we tried to keep the noise away from them and keep them focused. But I think we now need to start talking about it. And that's part of what Edward did in his reel. It was such a good reel. I encourage you guys all to go watch that reel. So that's my answer to your question.
Awesome. All right, so we need to transition. So,
Okay.
Alyssia, thank you so much. I know you're going to get a bunch of
So
people
much.
DMing you on Instagram. And Hector, let's go ahead and bring in Jeremy. But I want to start. So just know this, guys. If you have questions, the Q&A section is open. But whoever was going crazy in there, it's just better for me to just turn off the chat and not have anybody be distracted by it. It's the year of focus. So there's Jeremy. So I want to start by introducing my friend. But first, I want to post a question to you. And again, there's no chat, so this is just you and me talking.